All right, look who's in the news again. Ocasio-Cortez. I don't know. People keep telling me it's important how I pronounce her name. I really don't care. But there's always new news coming out over something that she says. It's always interesting. You know, the world's going to end in the next, 12 years. I've seen so many examples of crazy statements out of Ocasio-Cortez, and that people should sit down and shut up while she rides her high horse, because everyone else is speaking from the cheap seats. Like, the arrogance of this person is absurd, and all her ideas are so wrong and so debunked over time. I don't even have time to go into all of them. We've done reports on it before. But anyway, I want to get into this article. And yes, I know from Fox News. Let me get into it after the fact, but I want to get into it first from this. As the article says, Ocasio-Cortez says she isn't worried about the rise of workplace robots. And as the article goes into, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat from New York, said workers should be excited by the prospect of job automation and blasted capitalism as irredeemable at the South by Southwest Festival in Austin this weekend. Man, I wish I got over to that. I always find out at the last second. Anyway, in response to a question from the audience about the threat of automated labor, the firebrand liberal said workers should be excited about having their jobs automated, but were not because of larger systemic issues in American society. And I quote, "We should be excited by that, but the reason we're not excited by it is because we're living in a society where if you don't have a job, you are left to die. And that is at its core our problem." Ocasio-Cortez, who has championed moonshot ideas like the Green New Deal and universal health care, said, yeah, stealing everyone's money totally has nothing to do with people being left to die. Anyway, as he goes on, according to The Verge, the freshman congresswoman also referenced a proposal from Bill Gates to potentially tax robots that replace human workers. Tax robots. They just, oh my God. Anyway, we should be excited about automation because what it could potentially mean is more time educating ourselves, more time creating art, more time investing in and investigating the sciences, more time focused on invention, more time going to space, more time enjoying the world that we live in, she said, according to The Verge, because not all creativity needs to be bonded by wage. People are expected to work for free because they're not supposed to charge for things that cost them money to produce and all that. And you think everyone's... anyway, we know this argument. We've done it before. We've gone over it before. And this idea of going to space, maybe someone should send her to space. Voluntarily, of course. Tell her there's communism on Mars or something. Anyway, during her talk, which reportedly drew the largest crowds at the popular Austin Festival, Ocasio-Cortez slammed capitalism, and I quote, "Capitalism is an ideology of capital. The most important thing is the concentration of capital and to seek and maximize profit," Ocasio-Cortez said. And that comes at any cost to people and to the environment, she said, according to Bloomberg News. So to me, capitalism is irredeemable. Okay, going on, although the self-described democratic socialists stopped short of saying capitalism should be scrapped altogether, she explained that we're reckoning with the consequences of putting profit above everything else in society, and what that means is people can't afford to live. For me, it's a question of priorities, and right now I don't think our model is sustainable. The congresswoman who unseated a 10-term Democratic incumbent in a district spanning parts of Queens and the Bronx said democratic socialism is more about the rights of workers than explicitly government-run industries. Yeah, by stealing all their money, that makes them very happy and sustainable. It's just as much a transformation about bringing democracy to the workplace so that we have a say and that we don't check all of our rights at the door every time we cross the threshold into our workplace, she reportedly said. Because at the end of the day, as workers and as people in society, we're the ones creating wealth. There's so much to go into it. It hurts my head. And this idea of like, we shouldn't, every time we cross the threshold into the workplace, we don't have to check all of our rights away. I mean, So stealing most of everyone's money and spending trillions of dollars on things they don't want to extort them further and force them into servitude and dependence, and force them to live the way you want, because of course that's fair and square. That's not greedy at all, that you have an idea and you want to force everyone at gunpoint to do it, or else be kidnapped and thrown in a cage. Guys, anyway, we should be scared right now, as she said, because corporations have taken over our government, she said. Government has taken over the corporations, Alexandria. We'll go into that in a moment. The 29-year-old congresswoman did not offer any proposals at South by Southwest, but she did reference income inequality in the United States during her talk. We shouldn't be working the least amount we've ever worked if we were actually paid based on how much wealth we were producing, she said. But we're not. We're paid on how little we're desperate enough to accept. And then the rest is skimmed off and given to a billionaire. Like a billionaire. Okay, yeah, because all businesses are just run by billionaires. And who cares, folks? These billionaires are producing more into the economy than anyone by giving people countless jobs. The biggest problem that is hurting people's wealth today and pushing people into poverty and making their wages not work or do anything for them in the real world is inflation and taxes. This is a woman that wants to tax people a ridiculous amount, and her proposals would involve taxing people over 95% in a lot of cases regarding the Green New Deal, which still makes no financial sense whatsoever, and is based on the United Nations Agenda 2030 agenda anyway. But this idea that government should save us from government, but she blames capitalism, the exchange of goods and services, voluntarily, hand to hand, switching hands. Like, folks, this is the biggest problem we're dealing with right now, is the dependency of the populace and this idea that we must be dependent on this entity because problem, reaction, solution, repeat for eternity, Hegelian dialectic. Folks, the problems aren't coming from capitalism. Corporations are owned by the government because the government has complete control over them, which is fascism, by the way, which she is quick to call everybody else. And on top of that, it's kind of fascio-communism, because communism comes into play there. The planks of communism, the central banking system, no property rights, as I've gone into recently, etc., etc., etc. Taxation is theft, and stealing most of people's money does not make them richer. It creates a domino effect of poverty that hits and strikes everyone, and everyone ends up paying for it, and you jack up that wage at the same time, and then people are able to buy about the same, if not less, with a different higher number, because this woman who apparently has some kind of degree in economics has never actually studied basic economics. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is probably one of the dumbest people I've ever seen in my life in politics, and that's saying a lot, because politics is organized crime. It's people centrally planning your life, saying that they have a right over your life, saying that they are the masters and you're the slaves. They are the kings and the queen, and you are the pawns and must be sacrificed for them. It is such a disgusting joke that we keep having to deal with these same people over and over again, fooling people that are basing all their ideas on emotions. They don't have opinions. It's identity politics on both sides, on both freaking sides, thinking that collectivism is going to save them from the problems of collectivism. Cancer curing cancer. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has absolutely no idea what she's talking about, and most politicians don't, and it doesn't even matter because politicians are playing a game of organized crime where they're stealing people's money and utilizing it to force ideas on them that only a small amount of people voted for. Representative government, yeah, okay, go to your representative and give them an idea, and even if they took your idea, they're still forcing that idea on everyone else, because good ideas do not require force, folks. It's immoral and it's illogical from an economic standpoint. People have more say in their life, more rights in a capitalist society that's truly free market outside of the government coercive structure that completely destroys the markets, regulates and taxes, pushes small businesses out of the market while propping up major monopolies, which then people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez blames capitalism for. Not government, the government that's creating that problem in the first place. Then inflation, at the creation of fiat centrally planned legal tender law crap that's being shoved down our throats, and then we have to pay off the interest on the debt with the taxes, as well as go bomb places overseas with those taxes. I don't know, folks. Maybe I'm getting a bit overly angry. I do believe there's more solutions than problems, but it really frustrates me to see this perpetuate for so long, from Bernie Sanders, and all these politicians that over time slowly, incrementally got more and more socialistic and collectivist. And I'm not justifying conservatism either, because it's all forms of collectivism. It's just some are bigger, some are smaller. None of them are excused. None of them are justifiable. The free market allows for corporations, or companies, I should say, not corporations, companies, to compete on the market with the best price, lowest price for the best product that people will give their individual demand to with their currency, with their value. Things they voluntarily do, while they do not voluntarily accept their money being stolen out of their pocket outside of the social contract, which apparently we all signed when we were born, straight out of the womb. We put on our little reading glasses and got a pencil and wrote out this social contract. It's so absurd. And our rights are only existent at our own personal protection of those rights, individual responsibility to protect those rights. If the government does this, I mean, look, imagine the Italian mob or something. Let's go into the movies. There's not a lot of Italian mob these days, but you get the picture. This organized crime racket comes and starts extorting us. What are we doing to protect ourselves? Why is it any different with the government? Because, they're bigger and scarier and they've killed hundreds of millions of people, MVP at murder, and we need to bow down to them and give them all of our money because they're also the MVP at theft. I mean, why do we accept this as an inevitability? If most people stopped obeying, the whole system would crumble. If a few people, a tiny percentage, stopped obeying, the whole system would collapse because it's inefficient and unsustainable. So why do we allow ourselves to continuously perpetuate this problem by thinking, well, maybe the lesser of evil will save us? And that's one of the things that the left ended up bringing in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and the right bring in a whole bunch of politicians for the same reason. And we always look to politics to save us from politics, and that is the cancer that will never end as long as we continue to do that. And just cutting government isn't going to change that either, because you can cut 95% of a tumor, but that tumor still exists in that 5 percentile region, and it'll still grow. What are we going to do about this, folks? Are we going to continuously lay apathetic, or are we going to stand up? Anyway, thanks for listening to me rant about all this insanity. I will continuously talk about Alexandria Ocasio or whatever her name is, because I think that it is incredibly counterproductive and also dangerous to perpetuate this idea of dependence on the state, and that the state has the answers to all of our problems, which they created in the first place. So anyway, thanks for watching, and until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
Like what you see here, WAM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so heavily demonetized and censored by YouTube, as these guys come in and flag all of our content as hate speech. The shadow banning is getting really bad, guys. Also, check our Bitcoin address right here on the screen or in the description below. We really appreciate it. And of course, check us out at the Red Pill Expo 2019. Of course, the great G. Edward Griffin and so many other incredible speakers will be there. Our link for that is below as well. And we cannot forget Mike Maloney's goldsilver.com, which you can also find in the description. One of the greatest market and monetary historians out there. We really encourage everyone to check that out. But until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.